Hello, everybody. I'm Elwirfy, and today I just was curious if anyone had posted a good review of Killing Floor so we could shut it down. And oh, poor GameSpot, you sad people. I don't know if they had like an AI write this or if something else happened, but I see that we do not understand what's going on. Let's just get into it. Let's get into it. This is kind of funny.
The few hours I've spent playing Killing Floor 3, this latest entry could be the one
Okay, Chris. I hope. Oh, narrated by Tom, but Chris is the one who wrote it, so blame him.
to push the co-op shooter from something I eventually tire of to one I end up returning to for years. The most
Okay.
immediate and obvious change, even before getting into a match, concerns how classes work, what were formerly known as
Okay, so let's look. I haven't seen this menu yet. Let me see. It says specialists are key members of the Nightfall team. So now we're a specific team of elite soldiers. We're not just a group of mishap people who happen to come together during the apocalypse. Now we're an elite fighting force. Really? You're gonna like there wasn't much plot in Killing Floor, but you're gonna change the little plot that there was? Really? Oh my god. Let's see. Each unique gadget, weapon set, and perk, along with a variety of skills in the specialist menu. You can select skills, customize their appearance. Okay, yeah. But we know the customized appearance is a lie. Okay.
perks, are now specialists, pairing distinct abilities with a particular character. That
Right.
has the potential downside of forcing you to
And we can see like there's different stuff. There's some background. Uh, yeah.
adopt a look you may not care for.
You can see the
But the real challenge to
limitations.
me in picking a specialist was foregoing the special abilities that others would have access to.
Yeah. Therefore, exactly. Well, that's why we don't need specialists with special powers. Everyone should have access to the same gear, but then if you just use your weapons that match your perk, it helps you level up. He's proving my point. Like, yeah, it sucks that there's stuff that you cannot use just because you picked a certain class. Killing Floor 1 and 2 didn't have that problem.
Because I found every one of them so fun to use.
That's
These
opinion.
abilities are
Whatever.
cooldown based, allowing you to freely use them over the course of a match. You
Okay.
just need to weigh the right time to deploy them.
Yeah, you could say that about anything. That's not a positive. That's just stating facts about the game. I guess my point is like he's trying to promote like why it's like good, but like that's nothing new, you know.
Initially started playing as the Firebug character Devlin, who
Fine.
has access to Wildfire, an ability that slams the ground and deals an area of effect attack. The immediate and devastating impact of this, which comes with the benefit of also dealing with enemies behind you, made it incredibly useful, not to mention making me feel like a hero for leaping in and saving my group from being overwhelmed on several.
I wonder how much damage it does because it doesn't look like it killed that guy. So it's probably just good for the basic Zeds, which is fine. Um, but it looks like I'm pausing it right here so you can watch. I believe they're about to take their own fire damage.
occasions.
Yeah,
The
look at that.
gadget
Do you see that? Do you see how like they took their own fire damage? Like, shouldn't the firebug be protected against their own fire? Maybe that's a me thing, but I thought that was stupid.
available to the Ninja Specialist, one of two brand new specialist types alongside the Engineer, also proved
Right.
to be a great deal of fun. It's a
We had
grappling hook
Yeah, so we got rid of the berserker and we're just gonna have the ninja. That okay.
that pulls you to an enemy to deal a burst of damage, and conveniently puts you within range to start slicing away with your katanas.
Right.
But beyond the inherent utility of rapidly relocating, you'll
Uh-huh.
also annihilate the enemies you make contact
Oh, so do you just insta kill people now? With the which is fine. I mean, like, the berserker was a really good class because like if you don't like insta kill stuff with your melee weapons, then you're kind of fucked. But do they now have this cool thing where you zoom through everyone? I could see that being a little too overpowered because I don't know. Like if everyone's OP, then it's not a challenge anymore, right? It's not fun. I don't know. Maybe I'm biased, but I feel like if you may give everyone OP powers, that will then change the dynamic of the gameplay such that maybe you know we're too self-reliant. There's less teamwork needed for the game.
with on your way. Ninja was initially the specialist I was least interested in trying.
Fair.
I often find melee weapons in gun-centric games to be underwhelming. Not to
I mean, that's your opinion, so I'm not going to really judge that. like what you have fun with is what you have fun with. I get it. I don't even play Berserker myself. I like the shotgun. I'm the support guy. That's what I like to play. Um, but that being said, I mean every class has its role, and it's fine.
To mention the potential difficulty of learning the game while actively putting myself in harm's way. Much to my surprise, Ninja might have been the most entertaining specialist of the bunch. Not only does slicing through Zeds with katanas feel great, but having access to bows and shurikens provides enough long-distance options that I felt.
So he just fired 3 bows and it didn't die. Did I see that right? It didn't even fall.
Options that I felt.
Oh, it did fall after 3 shots. Your bow, I would think, would be stronger because you should have less ammo because it's a bow, and they've made it just like a really bad pistol. That's really disappointing. Um, they really need to improve the bow, I think, a lot, especially if that's your one ranged option. I don't know.
I could back off at times and still be effective. You can still buy any weapon, regardless of which specialist it's associated.
Okay, that's fine if you can still do that. My point of the weapon restrictions wasn't that like you couldn't change between and like throw the wrong thing on the wrong person. My concern was the fact that within your class you only have 4 weapons. I mean, and look at this. Like you're telling me that like the default like sword is like worse. Oh, what happened to the sledgehammer? What happened to the chainsaw? There's the I don't play Berserker. There was a lot of melee weapons. There were a lot of melee weapons. There should be more. And I don't know. Well, that's an interesting thing I just thought of is if we're having progression no longer tied to the weapons you use in relation to your class, like if they're trying to use weapon variety based on using a weapon that's not in your class as an excuse for not having more weapons, then that is absurd. If I'm playing the ninja, I should get a variety of melee weapons that would be complementary to that. If they're only giving you ninja-based weapons for the ninja because they're planning on adding like, I don't know, the clubber or something, and he's got like a big stick, and then he gets like a hammer or something. I don't understand this game. Is progression, and maybe I don't understand. Please leave a comment if you know. Please answer me this. Is progression tied to your skill with a weapon that is matching the class that you're currently using? Or is it based on those timed event things and your weapon choice means nothing? If your weapon choice means nothing, then you're really picking a specialist just for your extra like perks and stuff, the extra like gadgets. So then that might mean you could have a meta where everyone's picking the same class because you can still use any weapon if your level progression is not tied to you using the class-specific weapon for the perk that you pick. So I just need an answer to that because I don't understand what they want to do with progression here. It does not make sense.
Associated with. The shurikens, which can be very rapidly flung at foes, have a satisfying metallic shink to them that encouraged me to back off every now and then so I could use them. Much as I enjoyed each of these abilities.
Yeah, so like this person, for example, this is the sharpshooter, right? So their they have a gadget that changes their fire mode, I guess. They have a 4-arm mounted launcher that throws a homing arrow. Okay. And they have a freezing power. That's really good. So what if everyone wants to be sharpshooter and they all freeze? I'll use the throwables to freeze stuff, and then you're still running with a shotgun. I don't know. It's weird, like, because you want to have variety in your game, but when you make it so all that the perks really did, is they gave you a slight boost to weapons that are in your same perk. So if I'm playing a SWAT and I get the MP5, that's going to help me. If I'm using a shotgun, I could use a shotgun as a SWAT, but that's not going to give me the same bonus. It won't give me the same XP. It's different. Like in Killing Floor, your perk progression for leveling up was based on the weapon you held. So if I use a shotgun, that will level up my specialist class. If I use the bullpup, that'll help with my commando class. In this game, are we saying that your specialist will level up regardless of what weapon you use? If so, you can have everyone running around with the AA-12s or whatever the equivalent is here. There's going to be less variety of weapons. One thing that was nice about Killing Floor is that weapon variety was restricted in the sense that everyone was encouraged to use weapons based on the perk that you needed. That's why when I talk about lack of weapon variety within the class, that's important. And I apologize if previously I didn't mention, like, I'm not saying that, like, oh, you can only buy one, you can only buy these weapons if you're this clear. I know you can always buy any weapon, but within each set, within each specialist class, you only have like 4 weapons. That's horrible. That is so bad. Like, I know Killing Floor 1 only launched with 16 weapons, but what was cool about that was that everyone could, because you could pick up weapons on the ground, everyone got to try all the weapons eventually. You got to have variety and see what happened. And obviously, Killing Floor 1 added a bunch more weapons, and I understand this is just a starting point as well. We are getting more weapons here than we're getting in Killing Floor 1, so I'll give them that. But what do you like? There's no reason why we couldn't have a ton of weapons already, like Killing Floor 2 has, if you're taking the time to develop this game, in my opinion.
My favorite was easily the sharpshooter specialist's death hand, which is effectively just the homing arrow that Yondu
And you'll notice that they're talking mostly about the specialist powers. They're not really talking about the weapons themselves. Why? Because the weapons are pretty bland.
of Marvel fame uses. Deploy it and it begins zipping around, slaying enemies quicker than you'd be able to target them yourself. It's a thrilling display, not just killing enemies, but flinging their bodies to the ground with.
So you get like a kind of an aim. See, why wouldn't this suddenly be the best class to pick? If you can use any weapon anyway, why wouldn't you just use this? Because this is insta-killing Zeds, seemingly.
The sheer impact in a way that had me eager for its cooldown to reset so I could do it all again. It's possible that enjoying.
Yeah, and it's cooldown based, so you literally can just run around the map just using that. I don't know. It's like they're trying to make the weapons less valuable, which is also a big problem. The guns need to be the main focus of the game, and you're giving us gear that kills Zeds without using our gun. I don't know. That seems odd. That seems like a poor choice because they couldn't think of a reason. They're like, okay, we need to have specialists. That way we can sell more specialists. Why would we do that? Well, because they have unique weapons. And it's like, well, all the Killing Floor people can already use all the weapons. So how do we make them unique? So like, okay, let's add some powers that make like the way they kill Zeds different. I don't know. And they're like, well, but how many uses do you get? Oh, we'll make it infinite. But you're going to give us a limited amount of of stims? Come on.
Enjoyment will wane after using it in match after match, but my initial impression was that this is one of the most entertaining attacks I'd ever used in a video game.
Yeah, that's biased, and that's an emotional appeal. That means nothing to me.
It's that good. Part of what makes Death Hand so much fun to use is the weight behind this and every attack. There's a real heft behind each bullet fired.
Yes, the guns do feel heavy because the gameplay's slow, because all the guns feel the same. All the guns equally have the same heft and weight, and that's why I feel like the writer of this, not the narrator, just to be clear, the writer did not understand the variety and appreciate the uniqueness of the weapons in Killing Floor 1 and 2. Because if he feels like the guns in 3 have variety and they all feel punchy in their own way, and maybe that's not what he's saying. Maybe he's saying they're all equally shit. Because if all the guns feel the same, then they don't actually feel good because they're all the same. So you'd never know the difference.
With Zeds recoiling.
And you know what's funny? I just thought of this. If all the guns feel the same, then the only cool thing in the game is the specialist perks. So then it makes the gunplay less valuable. So then you're not really making a first-person shooter. You're making a hero power game that happens to have guns in it.
As they absorb the blows. Killing Floor 3 feels better than this series ever has.
This is biased, and I don't know what this writer was thinking, that Chris guy. I don't know what he's thinking.
Through great sound design and the way enemies are staggered by attacks you never feel as though you're firing mushy peas against a cardboard.
But you do. We saw that when we saw the arrows going into that one enemy. It was too dark. I couldn't tell which enemy it was. Like the guns don't feel as strong now, to me, based on the gameplay I've seen. Like even when we saw that other video where the guy was using the shotgun, and he was using or worse, the grenade launcher, and he'd hit a low-level enemy and it wouldn't explode. Come on.
Box. Even heavy-duty enemies who are difficult to kill react to your gunfire, and the ability to target weak spots to temporarily stagger them provides momentary reprieves that also help to mitigate.
Maybe I'm not seeing it, but I could not tell any clear weak spots. I can just see like because with how jumpy because the the bullet spread is so jumpy, you really can't be accurate in this game unless maybe the sniper's accurate. But I don't see accuracy being something you could rely on. For me, it's aim for the chest. Recoil tends to hit the head. Typically, that's how things go.
Gate any sense that they are bullet sponges. Z time makes a return in Killing Floor 3 with
Okay.
an added dose of welcome
I don't know if I like the map hacks. That's a bit much. In Z time normally, you still wouldn't see through walls. That's not good.
predictability. Rather than being chance-based, a meter at the top of the screen shows your progress toward triggering it. As before, it slows down time for everyone, letting you easily line up headshots or process your surroundings and have a moment to decide your next attack.
See how short that was? Z time's too short.
Kills during this time extend the duration of the effect, while there is a brief period after it ends during which your kills don't contribute to your next Z time. What makes Z time here even better is that all nearby enemies are highlighted in red,
I think that's a serious problem.
including those behind walls and other obstacles. That gives you a real edge in combat, which can become chaotic, as well as the ability to line up
See how red everything is becoming, though? That's crazy annoying. That's really bad, because why are they doing that? Is that to, like, signal, oh, it's about to end? But, like, that just gets in the way. That's a bad graphical choice. They need to fix that, like, ASAP. If you want to highlight everyone in red and, like, make everything gray, don't then flood me with a bunch of red stuff. Oh, my God.
headshots before an enemy has even rounded a corner. Beyond the sheer utility of Z time, though, is the fun of seeing the game's gore system known as MEAT, Massive Evisceration and Trauma, at work in even gorier detail, moving from
Okay.
less graphically violent shooters like Marvel Rivals or even Call of
Did you just call Marvel Rivals a shooter? It is a team game that has shooting elements, but Marvel Rivals has so much variety in it. To reduce it to just a shooter and make it comparable to Killing Floor tells you exactly what's wrong with Killing Floor. Killing Floor is not in any way supposed to feel like Marvel Rivals. Marvel Rivals is a team-based PvP game. This is a PvE game, and the fact that oh my god, you can comment about that. That's just stupid.
Duty Black Ops 6 to Killing Floor 3 is jarring at first, to say the least.
Yeah, it's a difference, but I wouldn't even compare them.
Heads go flying off into the distance, blood gets everywhere, Zeds missing their bottom halves, desperately crawl toward you, bodies explode. Developer Tripwire clearly isn't holding back here, going over the top with its gore in a way that feels fun and silly in a classic Evil Dead kind.
I would never use silly to describe this. What are you talking about? Is it because the boomers explode, like they fill up and explode? That's just a cosmetic choice. That's fine. I don't really care about that.
Kind of way. Other positive additions include an execution system, which, much like modern Doom's glory.
Yeah, it's just Doom. I didn't want to talk about it much because I think it's silly. I already in another video I talked about how getting animation locked is stupid, and I don't know yet if when you're in the animation you're invincible or not. Either way, it's bad. If you are invincible in an animation, you might try and find yourself always trying to do an animation, so you can never die. But the other flip side of that is if you're not invincible, then you're probably going to get hit a lot, and then animations kind of suck. So either way, it's bad, and I think animations are just not appropriate for Killing Floor at all.
Kills allows you to approach low health enemies and finish them off with a gruesome attack. Doing so means needing to get close.
Yeah, see how that guy was surrounded? He didn't take damage. So you are invincible when you go into an animation state, so that means that you can try and animate your way through fights. I don't know how I understand like they have to be low to be able to do it, but I would be spamming that animation takedown button all the time then. Because why waste your ammo and why waste your gear when you can just animate your way through a fight? The reason why it was fine in Doom was because it was solo and because it wasn't actually just because it was solo. So like when you're in a team game and you're essentially being able to abuse the AI mechanics of getting the Zeds to stand around you and not attack your teammates to make it easier for your teammates because you're stuck in an animation. But that takes the challenge away from the game because your friends don't have to protect you while you're in the animation. That just breaks it to me. That's not good. And when you're in an animation, you're stuck. You can't do anything. Like if a teammate needs help, you can't just I assume you can't end the animation to go help them, right? So it pulls you out of the fight entirely and totally breaks that connection you have with your squad.
But the upside is the damage these attacks deal to nearby foes, lending a nice risk and
Yeah, he
reward
didn't take
element
damage.
provides
And it froze all the enemies. It froze all the enemies around him. That's so bad.
another strategic consideration in the heat of combat. The time between rounds also now affords you more things to do. Rather than simply running to the trader pod to stock up on new weapons or ammo, or physically flinging your excess cash to share with teammates, you'll find objects throughout the environment to destroy, as well as certain doors and devices that can be activated using a multi-tool.
Yeah, why is this a hunter-gatherer game? We don't need to be scavenging for stuff. And especially with how flat all the levels look, that means anything you're supposed to scavenge will stand out really well, which isn't a bad thing, but it's like you're encouraging me to do gameplay that isn't killing zombies? Really?
One of the consumable tool options. Zip lines, sentry guns, and armor lockers are among the things that are inactive until a multi-tool brings them online, and all of which can provide life-saving getaways or assistance. You can also destroy speakers and other objects to gain cash and crafting materials.
Oh, so you can actually supplement your cash gain this way. I guess that's fine if it was just for cash, but I have a feeling these destructibles are probably going to be tied to your daily quests, and I feel like again that's going to get people pulled out of the fighting. I understand that they're encouraging you to do this like in between waves, because obviously when you're actually fighting, I'm sure there's no time to do this kind of stuff. But what stops you from getting it down to 1Z and then running around and scrapping the whole map? The whole map is unlocked to you. It's not like there's a locked set. So you should. Does that mean every match I'm going to have to spend time on the first wave just going around and looting? Is this a looter shooter now? Oh, God.
Which are also gathered from killing Zeds in various ways.
Because, like, what stops you from leaving one Zed left alive and then just running around and taking out the whole map?
Crafting is a system I didn't get to spend much time with, but you'll be able to create mods to attach to weapons, versions of which you'll then buy during a match. But even without having done
Oh my God, they're replacing weapon variety with attachments. Because look, there's different prices based on the attachments you put on. We might not get more weapons. This might be it, because they're so reliant on getting attachments. They better put in some more damn weapons. This better not be it. I'm going to be really upset.
any crafting myself, the lineup of weapons available at the trader includes versions with randomized mods. They might dramatically alter the size of your magazine in exchange.
Wait, sorry, randomized mods? So that means that the trader's going to have random shit, so you might have an objectively worse loadout some games? That's bad too.
For certain benefits or concessions, change their damage type, thereby altering the types of weapons and armor they're effective against, or add entirely new effects. At one point, I got a grenade launcher with freezing rounds. Suddenly, a weapon I'd...
That's bad. It shouldn't be random. You need to... the point is you build a strategy and you like have a goal.
otherwise only used to attack large groups of enemies had a new utility in temporarily halting the advance of whole groups of Zeds. This one example might overstate the overall impact mods will have on the average match.
It certainly does, and it means that if you don't get this one, your weapons are worse, to me.
But the additional diversity they might bring to weapons is very promising.
Don't put your diversity in the attachments. Dang it. This better not be the diversity. No. I need different weapons that feel different to shoot. I couldn't care less what's coming out of the gun.
Alongside mods, the other big progression system involves skill trees for each specialist. Upgrades for Killing Floor 2's perks always struck me as underwhelming. Yeah, better reload speeds or higher damage are all well and good, but they're not terribly exciting.
Yeah, I know they're not exciting. The point of the perks was that they boosted the weapons of the specialist, because the weapons were the focus of the game. You're making the weapons no longer the focus of the game. That's the whole point. That's my whole point. Now weapons they're not as important, seemingly. Like, they are important, obviously, but like, you're not really reliant on your weapons anymore. Now you're reliant on your gadgets or your stims or your gear or your other... What are we doing?
Nor do they really affect the way you think about a combat engagement. While there remain some simple percentage-based upgrades in Killing Floor 3 skill trees, they seem to often be paired with an additional effect to factor into your playstyle. For example, a firebug upgrade that grants faster reload speeds also makes it so that every reload damages nearby enemies and causes them to panic.
I mean, that's okay. If you have the stat-based upgrades with additional stuff, that's okay. But again, that's a buff that makes it so that way when you're supposed to be vulnerable, because this is still you got to die somehow. We can't just all live. Like, I understand like you get hurt, and maybe because I haven't played, I don't realize how easy it is to die. But now you're protecting me when I'm supposed to be vulnerable reloading. So the whole point, part of the fun of Killing Floor was that you'd like see the groups of Zeds like around the map, and you'd plan out, okay, am I gonna have to reload in between, and I need to plan an escape route. There's a lot of stuff you like think about like subconsciously when you're playing that doesn't really we don't really talk about it in first-person shooters, but especially for a game like this, like where yeah, you have limited ammo, so you got to time out your reloads or switch to another weapon. But now you're gonna have some perks that just make you not vulnerable. That's not good.
Interrupting their advance. This encourages you to consider your positioning each time you reload.
You should already do that. If he says you should consider your positioning when you reload so you can get the stun off and not so you can get away, that's the problem right there.
And it's these kinds of possibilities that get me excited about upgrading each specialist. Combine an upgrade like that with a weapon that can be reloaded early and often, plus one of the ninja's melee weapons, and what does combat look like?
No, no, no. The whole point of having a weapon that needs to reload frequently is that it's a worse weapon, so you have a reason to progress and upgrade. You shouldn't be valuing the low-level weapons to get the reload bonus. If you made your reload bonus so damn good, you would take your pistol, reload it every time you fire a shot. Is what you're saying? Like you're saying it's that good that you'd want to prioritize your how frequently you reload over the power of your weapon? Oh my god, that's awful.
I can't wait to play around with all of the potential options.
I don't know what else they're going to add, but that sounds really bad.
Weekly mutations that can potentially shake up matches to keep.
That's fine. There were all kinds of weird stuff in the other games. Like, that's okay. I don't mind if they want to add new stuff. And new enemies are cool. I think that's kind of fun.
Keep things fresh, great metal music that amps up the intensity,
yeah,
player specific objectives to attempt alongside slaying Zeds, and
that's
a
fine.
History of great post-launch support. Killing Floor 3
Never use history of post-launch support as a means to justify buying a game. If your post-launch support is so dang important, then just don't buy the game right now. Just don't buy it. Don't do it. You should not be relying on a studio to make the game good after it's already out.
Looks like a killer co-op package. Only extensive time will tell if it can sustain itself in the long term, but right out of the gate.
That enemy looks like an enemy from Half-Life. I know it's not, but it looks very similar to, because I've been playing Half-Life, and Half-Life 2, I mean. That looks like the Antlion boss, kind of. Just not a bad thing, I just want to point that out. It kind of looks like a boss from another game.
Killing Floor 3 should be a blast. It's set to release on PC, PS5, and Xbox Series X and S on March 25th.
We're not that far away. Okay.
Based on the few hours I've
Okay. Yeah, that was rough, guys. That was hard to. Let's see what the chat's saying. As we always do, let's look at the comments here. Animations look awful. Gameplay's generic. It's a hero shooter with a splash of Killing Floor. Yep, that pretty much sums it up. Keep in mind, guys, the exact issues and criticism you have in your head has already been shouted out and spammed to the devs, and they simply ignored it and said, we feel like, and disregarded every Killing Floor frame. Jesus Christ. Is this true? What are the replies in this? Is that true? Yikes. On the contrary, they've been working with many content creators for a while to incorporate their feedback, which is why you'll notice almost all of the independent creators who posted previews are in favor of the game. Of course, not all feedback was incorporated, I'm sure. For example, the devs probably wanted to keep the specialist system for future monetization. That's a good point. They're clearly chasing COD and Apex player. Yeah, this is not a game for Killing Floor fans, and that's really disappointing. Yep, here's a list. No real weapon models. No 200 FPS reload animation in slow motion. No perks. No horror atmosphere. Right, it's not even scary. Oh my god, I didn't even talk about that. This game isn't scary anymore. Do you remember how scary Half-Life? Like I played Killing Floor 1 just like as a silent gameplay, and I purposely put it with like not as many enemies because I wanted to give the sense of the horror aspect. This is a scary game. Well, it was a scary game. It's not scary anymore. There's no fear. Like I look at these enemies and like they don't look intimidating. At least in Killing Floor 2, everything had like a low saturation of lighting, so like you could still get kind of scared in Killing Floor 2, but Killing Floor 2 honestly isn't as scary as Killing Floor 1. Killing Floor 1 is genuinely a horror game with like FPS stuff, which is really fun. But this game's not scary at all. You've lost your identity, you've lost your theme. Okay, I need to stop before I get too mad. Thank you all for watching. As always, guys, I'm Elwirfy. Make sure to subscribe, and I'll definitely see you guys next time. Take care, everyone.